After years of uncertainty, the 2016 sleeper hit Don't Breathe is finally getting a sequel. Stick around and I'll tell you everything you need to know about this movie, plus give you my own thoughts on it as well. What is up guys, Zach Cherry here, and I started this channel because I'm a huge horror geek, and if you're like me, you might want to consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the little bell thingy too, so YouTube can alert you every time I release a new video. If you're enjoying this content, be sure to give this a thumbs up and meet me in the comment section down below to give me your take on Don't Breathe 2. Do we want to see more sequels to these great horror movies, or should Hollywood be focusing more on original concepts? So after hearing rumblings about this project for years, we finally have confirmation last week when Bloody Disgusting reported that this movie is in fact in development. Other reports I'm seeing are giving this movie a possible title of Don't Breathe Again. There are two substantial things that we know about this movie right now. The first one is that Stephen Lang will be back to reprise his role as the blind man who was the main antagonist from the original, and also that Fede Alvarez will be back, but he will not be directing it this time. Instead, he'll act as a writer and producer, and instead taking up the director seat will be Rodo Sayagues. I had to look up a lot of videos on YouTube to see if I was pronouncing that right. He has been a longtime collaborator of Fede Alvarez's, having worked on both the Evil Dead remake and also the original Don't Breathe in a writing and producing capacity. Now, we do know that the film is going into production in April, so if I had to guess, I'd probably say that this is going to see a summer 2021 release, maybe earlier, maybe as early as March. The original movie was filmed in June of 2015 and was released in August of 2016, but had its premiere at the South by Southwest Film Festival, so I'm pretty sure it'll be somewhere between March and August 2021. Plot details are mostly being kept under wraps right now, but THR is reporting that the sequel is set several years into the future after the home invasion of the original movie, and we'll see the blind man living in quiet solace until his past sins catch up to him. That sounds to me like it possibly might be the family of the girl he was holding captive in the original movie, or it could be Rocky coming back to get revenge on him after having suffered some major PTSD after the events of the original. At this time, we don't know if Jane Levy is going to be back to reprise her role of Rocky, and it seems like with the way that the first movie ended, she kind of, had escaped him and was home free, and just given the nature of the character of the blind man, he is like a Michael Myers type, but he is not someone that's going to come and hunt you down just because of his disability that he can't see. So this obviously seems like more of a situation where the people are going to come to him and he's going to retaliate. So it is a little worrisome when I, read this synopsis. It sounds like they're just going to make a carbon copy of the original and have another home invasion movie just dealing with different characters. In the past, Fede Alvarez has said that he would make a sequel to Don't Breathe, but he wouldn't make a sequel because he could. He would make a sequel because he found a reason to make one. There was a story there. And that's also a major reason why we haven't seen a sequel to 2013's Evil Dead, because if they wanted to make a sequel, they could, but he wants to make sure that the sequel that they're going to make is going to live up to the original. So a possible twist that I could actually see happening here is that they're going to make the blind man the hero this time around. And if you think of the original, the whole idea was a home invasion movie, but inverted so that the perpetrators who are breaking in are actually the victims. So this would essentially just switch the whole thing around and make it so that the blind man is the victim this time. And of course, we know he has the skills and the training of being a war vet that he could fight back against these people, and we don't really know what this revenge plot might be if that is the direction they're going with. So, anything could happen. It's always an interesting concept to have us sympathize with the villain. As with the original Don't Breathe and the remake of Evil Dead, this is a Ghost House Pictures production, and in my opinion, Ghost House has not really had the best track record. I think that Don't Breathe and Evil Dead are their best credits to date. Drag Me to Hell is also a good movie. It's nowhere near the quality of Evil Dead or Don't Breathe, so I think that Fede Alvarez has a lot to do with the successes because of this production company. But if you like the Grudge movies and 30 Days of Night, you might think differently about Ghost House. To me, it just seems that the movies that Fede Alvarez has done for them have turned out to be the best ones. And everything that I've seen from Rodo Sayagues, I'm just gonna stop saying it because I feel like I'm not even saying it right. He is very talented. He obviously has a lot of skills that are on par with Fede Alvarez. They've worked together closely. You could bet that there's probably gonna be a lot of similar cinematic consistencies between the first and second movie. To me, this is a double-edged sword though, because if you're taking this movie and you're turning it into a franchise, the best thing that you can do is keep all the components exactly the same. You want to have the same director come back and continue making these movies in the same style that the previous film was made in. And you can look no further than the Scream franchise, and the reason why that was so popular is because of Wes Craven and because of Kevin Williamson. And they filled their roles specifically. They didn't cross over and try to do anything else. It just made for a very seamless transition from the first movie to the second movie, at least. So you're gonna be missing out on those nuances that Fede Alvarez would have brought to the director's seat. Fede actually reminds me a lot of Wes Craven, more so in the earlier years when he wasn't afraid to take risks and push that envelope to shock audiences. And this is not to undercut Rodo's abilities at all. I think that, he could probably do an amazing job with this, but I feel like, it would be better to give him a shot at making an original movie. Like, why give him someone else's leftovers? And the same thing with Fede. Like, if you're not gonna make Don't Breathe 2 or Don't Breathe Again, whatever it's called, then work on an original idea. Like, don't get me wrong, I love horror movie franchises. I love Scream, I love Halloween, Friday the 13th, but at the same time, I really like the novelty that this could have been an incredible concept that worked as a great horror movie that stood on its own. I just think that if it came down to a choice where Hollywood decided, hey, we're only gonna make one kind of horror movie from now on. It's either going to be sequels of already existing properties, or it's gonna be all original ideas. I would always go for original ideas 100% of the time. Honestly, I'm not thrilled about this movie. I'll probably feel differently, when we start to get more information and we get closer to a release date. But my biggest issue here is that I don't think that this is a movie that needs a sequel. And as much as I would have liked to see Fede return to direct Don't Breathe 2, I'd probably be way more excited to hear about anything regarding a new original horror movie that he was directing. I think the one positive takeaway from this though is that they've been talking about making this movie for a long time. So the fact that this is going to be coming out 5 years later is a good sign. It shows us that, they have not rushed this movie by any means at all. It was so popular when it came out in 2016, they could have slapped a sequel together and it would have been in theaters in 2017. So it's good that that didn't happen. And like Fede said, just because you can make a sequel to a successful horror movie doesn't necessarily mean that you should. So hopefully the only reason that it has taken this long is because they were logistically trying to figure out how to tell another compelling story. Anyway, that's all I've got for you on Don't Breathe 2. Guys, where the dickens is this Scream 5 news? Let's get the ball rolling. I want to start talking about Scream again. Until then, you can check out everything we know about it by clicking up in this corner. Thank you so much, guys. I've been Zach Cherry, and I'll be right back.